WWE Champion staying in WWE. On top of today's news is a report from 5/4 Select that Seth Rollins has signed a new deal with WWE. The report doesn't mention the specifics of the deal but notes it is believed to be a multi-year deal for big money. The article also is believed that the deal will lock down the Visionary, who turns 38 at the end of the month, until he's in his 40s. While there was undoubtedly major interest in rolling from other companies, Fightful reports a source close to the WWE and Rollins noted they're not going to let him go. The article also mentions Rollins' previous contract was expected to end sometime around June, and this signing is great news for the WWE as Rollins has become a key player in the company. His ability to work equally well as a heel or babyface along with his willingness to work through injuries makes him a must-have for any promotion. Rollins has also shown that he doesn't need a championship to get over and that he can work with any style of opponent. Next up, Vince MMAH lawsuit update. There's a shocking switch in the ongoing Janelle Grant lawsuit as John Laurinaitis appears to have changed his previous stance that he was much victim of Vince McMahon as Jell Grant was, and that he's now siding with McMahon. Let's look at the latest report from WrestleNomics. Brandon Thurston saying John Laurenti's motion to compel arbitration in Grant and WWE et al. is short. Laurinaitis adopts in the full arguments made early by McMahon last week on McMahon's motion to compel. You may recall Vince McMahon's attorney has attempted to get the case moved from court to arbitration, arguing that the NDA between McMahon and Grant requires any dispute involving it to be settled by arbitration. Grant's attorney has argued that NDA is no longer valid due to the nature of the allegations made against McMahon and a court policy that agreements involving certain misconduct are not enforceable. Some observers were surprised by Laurinaitis' apparent switch to McMahon's side. McMahon's attorney released the following statement in Jan of 2024. Miss Grant, a 43-year-old with a law degree who was in love with Mr. McMahon and devastated by their breakup, filed an outrageous and false lawsuit to ruin Mr. McMahon's career and reputation. Now her false allegations are slowly unraveling. Today, Mr. Noit's attorney confirmed his client will corroborate with Mr. McMahon's account and expose the lies within the complaint. Grant's attorneys won't be able to suppress the truth from coming out. In addition, Laurinaitis' attorney issued the statement. John Laurinaitis has filed a motion today fully joining in and adopting Vince McMahon's motion to compel arbitration. Mr. Laurinaitis corroborates Mr. McMahon in publicly declaring that Miss Grant's allegation of sexual abuse and coercion in a complaint are completely unfounded. My client will fight these false allegations together with Mr. McMahon in the proper forum. Arbitration. Next up, a major WWE exec resigns. Chief Operating Officer Brad Bloom has resigned from the WWE, and while details are sketchy, there are questions about whether Bloom's resignation is related to Janelle Grant's lawsuit. Melson discussed the resignation on the Wrestling Observer Radio, saying Chief Operating Officer Brad Bloom attended his resignation on the 1st of May. We don't know more details past this. Was his own decision and nobody forced him out. Ringside News noted that Bloom was promoted a Chief Operating Officer after the WWE Endeavor merger, and they also commented Plum's tenure was not without controversy as he was involved in legal matters such as the Janelle Grant lawsuit. He was cited in the lawsuit regarding his handling of the hiring and internal transfers. Anyone familiar with cause and effect know there may be factors other than the lawsuit involved in Bloom's resignation, but the timing is sure to raise eyebrows. Next up, Roman Reigns exercised his power. There's some fascinating insight into the WWE's Wrestlemania main event plans as a new report from Dave Melton details not only why the WWE decided not to put the title on Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39 but some interesting and also convoluted plans for Rock vs. Roman. Meltz is reporting that Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman convinced both Vince McMahon and Paul last year to change the finish because he believed it would be more beneficial in getting people like Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa over as well as many others and make Rhodes a bigger street to hold off the switch for a year. This isn't the first time fans have heard rumors of the WWE being convinced to keep the title on Reigns for longer than originally planned, a situation which, while not unusual when it comes to world titles, raises the question whether H-Man and Orton put their own interests ahead of WWE's interest by prolonging Roman's title reign. There's also the question why the WWE hasn't put much energy in Cody's push his champion. As for this year's showcase of the Immortals, there was talk of booking the dream match of The Rock vs. Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and not only how the WWE would get there but what would happen afterwards. The decision for RHS to win the Rumble was to set up a future title match after they would do an injury angle which would lead to The Rock getting the title shot and RHS would get a shot on victory later. At one point there was an idea that The Rock could win the title from Reigns and then give up the title to go to Hollywood and end the streak, but always called himself the People's Champion, which is where the idea and belt came in, which was long before the Hall of Fame ceremony. While a Rock vs. Roman match has been on the WWE's to-do list for years, years we feel the idea of The Rock winning the title and ditching it would have been anticlimactic and harmful to the WWE. After all, if the idea behind Roman's a lengthy reign was to give whoever beat him the rub, what would be the purpose of having The Rock beat him, especially since a Rock isn't even remotely close to being a part-timer, let alone a full-time wrestler. D. Milter explained how The Rock's win was opposed by some of the company. The idea that many were fighting against was the title win and then reigns after losing, getting it back and then losing again to RHS, feeling that would greatly hurt RHS's eventual win, and RHS was a guy who was going to have to carry the company in 24 and 25. Indeed, the idea of title bouncing back and forth was seen as a very bad move. Others were strongly against that, saying no matter what happened as far as The Rock getting the match, he could not win the title and Rhodes had to be the one who beats Reigns first and wins the title first. Would you guys make of these behind the scenes rumors? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Ric Flair angry, and there's a new miniseries coming to Vice TV titled Who Killed WCW, but there's one person who isn't happy about it: Nature Boy Ric Flair. Flair recently tweeted about the announcement about the upcoming show, saying as usual more BS. No interview with Ric Flair, who was WCW and made everyone there for 20 years, run by the same people who killed a company. How embarrassing. A documentary about WCW without me, and according to Bishop, on 83 weeks I was the greatest WCW wrestler and I made everyone in the company, as it wouldn't be anyone without me. What do you guys think of Ric Flair being excluded out of the documentary? Is it right? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, an update on Dominik Mysterio's injury. That's time for an update on Dom Mysterio injury status and when he's expected back in the action have been conflicting. Reports about his status ever since he was injured during a match against Andrade. Dave Meltzer has the latest in this week's Observer, saying Dominik Mysterio, who was first expected to need surgery for his elbow injury, will instead be avoiding surgery and going with personal therapy. He expects to be back in 6 to 8 weeks. As noted last week, the injury was viewed as a freak accident in his 15th of April match on TV with Andrade. This is great news for Dominik Mysterio fans, as he remains one of the wrestling's biggest heat magnets. Although he isn't clear to wrestle, the WWE has been utilizing him, including a developing story where it looks like Dominik and Liv Morgan have a blossoming romance, or at least a backstage fling. Next up, Matt Hardy reveals reason for leaving. Why did Matt Hardy re-up with Well, he recently commented on why during his podcast on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. I think the reason that I did not resign with initially was because I wanted to play a more substantial role in what is doing going forward, especially for me on TV. I wanted to be in something that is important, that is captivating, because that's what I want, especially with only a few years left to do this. We talked about some stuff and there were some deals, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. There's no telling how much time Hardy has left as a wrestler, but it sounds like he wants to make the most of it regardless of where he wrestles. Next up is Minneapolis.